This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, Carl Defenbaugh here with you on a Monday in July. Thanks for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is 12:30 here in our Milwaukee studio. We'll be with you over the next 2 hours, bringing you the news as it happens, both here in southeastern Wisconsin, the region that Fox 6 covers, of course, across the entire state. This is Fox Local. You can reach us anywhere streaming through your smart TV or through things like Roku or our streaming app on your mobile device, as well as the Fox 6 Milwaukee YouTube channel. So a whole lot of different ways to get us here over the next 2 hours, and we are here with you each and every Monday through Friday. We give you a live look at downtown Milwaukee from our Estabrook Park Tower camera as we get ready to go here on this Monday afternoon. Pretty nice day here in Milwaukee. The heat has broken that we experienced through the 4th of July and that long weekend. Quite cooler temperatures and nice today. While the weather story of the country is, of course, what is happening down south. This is a live look from Kerr County, Texas, where flooding has killed more than 80 people, including many children, at a girls' summer camp called Camp Mystic. Reporting this morning from camp organizers, 27 of their children and counselors were lost in the floodwaters. Just a horrendous situation in such a devastating fashion in Texas. We did just get word from the White House press secretary, who's just started her weekly briefing with some of the other things that the administration is doing, the disaster declaration that has been in place, the resources from a federal level going to Texas in the wake of those devastating storms and floods. Caroline Levitt just started taking questions from reporters there at the White House. Let's listen in live to what's happening in D.C.
Sure. Well, I won't get ahead of the Department of Homeland Security on additional countries, but as you pointed out, they did end temporary protective status for Nicaraguans and Hondurans in this country because TPS, temporary protective status, is temporary by definition. It is not meant to be a permanent path to residency or citizenship here in the United States of America. It was originally granted to Nicaraguans following a natural disaster in 1999. That doesn't sound very temporary to me. And as well as Hondurans in 1999 after the impact of Hurricane Mitch in 1998. And so this administration is doing what it promised to do. And if individuals from these countries want to come here, they have a legal pathway to do it, but temporary protective status was never meant to be permanent. The previous administration abused this status and this parole program, essentially treating it as such, and we're not going to tolerate that any further. Thank you, Brian. Megan.
Secretary Bessent said yesterday that countries will boomerang back to the April 2nd tariff level starting August 1st. Why did the president decide to have those tariffs not take effect Wednesday as originally scheduled? And then I was also wondering if you could share, obviously we saw the letters the president sent out on Japan and South Korea, but if any other major U.S. trading partners are getting letters today.
Sure, yes, I can confirm. In fact, I have those letters. If you could get me the folder with the letters in them, Liz, they're right in the previous office. I have the signed letters that went out to both South Korea and Japan today. And there will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet. And that's what this administration continues to be focused on. The President will also sign an executive order today delaying the July 9th deadline to August 1st. So the reciprocal tariff rate or these new rates that will be provided in this correspondence to these foreign leaders will be going out the door within the next month, or deals will be made. And those countries continue to negotiate with the United States. We've seen a lot of positive developments in the right direction, but the administration, the president, and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker. That's what they're focused on. And in the effort of transparency, these letters will continue to be posted to Truth Social, so you can enjoy them yourself. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. Just about the visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu today, I was just wondering why that is not open to the press. Previous visits by him, we've had Oval Office press conferences. Does that reflect somehow the kind of sensitivity of this particular visit?
No, they're having a private dinner. There's many important matters that are obviously ongoing in the region, as you know. The utmost priority for the president right now in the Middle East is to end the war in Gaza and to return all of the hostages. Also, as you know, there was a ceasefire proposal that Israel supports that was sent to Hamas, and we hope that they will agree to this proposal. We want to see all of the hostages released. that's on the top of the president's mind. So that will be discussed, as well as the many other positive developments we've seen in the Middle East. I want to go back to the trade deals. As you see, we have these beautiful letters that the president has signed. This one is to the President of the Republic of Korea, original signature on that, and these will be mailed. And then here we also have another letter to the Prime Minister of Japan as well. Both countries will be receiving a 25% tariff rate effective on August 1st. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. You said it, and the president said it many times, you want to see an end to the war in Gaza. Will he give guarantees during this 60-day period of ceasefire that actually the war will end? Because this is a sticking point with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I'm wondering if they see eye to eye on this point. And how do you see the next day? What the next day in Gaza will look like?
Look, right now the president is focused on today and to get the Hamas to agree to this ceasefire. I don't want to comment on the details of the arrangement out of respect for these negotiations, but a agreeable and appropriate ceasefire proposal has been sent to Hamas. And I can also tell you Special Envoy Witkoff intends to travel to Doha later this week, where he will continue to engage in these discussions. And the Qataris and the Egyptians have been incredibly helpful partners in mediating these negotiations and discussions to bring peace to this region and end this conflict once and for all. Kristen.
Two questions. Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
The first question is President Trump reconsidering his plan to phase out FEMA, given what officials have said is their critical role on the ground now in Texas?
Look, the president wants to ensure American citizens always have what they need during times of need. Whether that assistance comes from states or the federal government, that's a policy discussion that will continue. And the president has always said he wants states to do as much as they can, if not more. And in the case of Texas, the state and local officials are doing a tremendous job. And I know the president, Secretary Noem, and the federal government are very proud to be working with them. And the president has promised to give Texas the assistance that they need during this tragic time.
Just one follow-up on cuts overall. Over the weekend, President Trump said that Elon Musk was a train wreck. Are there, given this current viewpoint, are there concerns within the White House or from the president himself over the cuts that happened under Musk while he was advising DOGE, including the National Weather Service?
I think I've already addressed that, Kristen, and what I can tell you is that these offices were fully staffed. The San Angelo office was fully staffed with 12 forecast meteorologists. There were no vacancies. The San Antonio office was operating with 11 forecasters. And as Brian said, the union themselves said that there was adequate staffing. So I think those words speak for themselves, and the numbers speak for themselves. This was a once-in-a-century flash flood, a tragic natural disaster, and the administration is doing all that we can on the ground to help these families during this time of need. Jeff.
Thanks very much, Caroline. Just following up on Kristen's question, is it still the president's plan to phase FEMA out by the end of this year?
I just answered Kristen's question for you.
One more, hold on, one more.
Sure, I'll give it to you. Go ahead.
The follow-up on trade as well. 12 more letters coming, you said. Can you give us a sense of which countries those are?
I'll let the president reveal those in very due time. Keep your eyes on Truth Social. Michael, in the back.
Thank you, Caroline. An armed shooter today was shot in McAllen, Texas, after opening fire on Border Patrol agents. Comes just days after Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently said she gets, quote, inspired when activists obstruct ICE. Does the White House expect Democrats to tone down their rhetoric in light of what we saw today in McAllen, Texas?
We certainly call on Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents who, again, are everyday men and women. I would encourage AOC and other Democrats to actually meet with the United States Border Patrol. These are honorable Americans who are just simply trying to do their job to enforce the law. They go home to their families every night just like we all do, and they deserve respect and dignity for trying to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to remove public safety threats from our communities. The White House is aware of the shooting that took place today in Texas, and we are working with the appropriate federal agencies to get to the bottom of what happened.
Caroline, the DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. and they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network, on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
Kate. Thanks, Caroline. With Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting the White House today, yesterday the president said that he was working on a more permanent deal with Iran, but several days ago he didn't think one was necessary. What changed?
Well, when you asked me about this, or when you all asked me about this several weeks ago, I said the president thought maybe an Iran deal was not necessary, but of course the president is always interested in peace and diplomacy. That remains true, and the administration continues to be in contact, both directly and indirectly, with the Iranians on a deal.
And then on tariffs, you're now delaying the deadline from July 9th to August 1st. Is that an acknowledgement that perhaps the administration found it more difficult to negotiate these trade deals, or whatever happened to 90 deals in 90 days?
No, it's an acknowledgement that this administration is doing what's best for the American worker, and we want the best deals possible for our workers, for our manufacturing base, for our middle class, and they are doing this deliberately and appropriately on behalf of our country's interests. Josh.
A couple more on the tariffs. You said about 12 more letters. There were about 55 or so countries, including the EU as a bloc, that were facing this tariff increase. All of those, to understand me correctly, are now deferred to August 1st, right?
Correct.
And on the 12, what happens with the remaining, whatever it would be, 40 something?
So just 12 today. There will be additional letters in the coming days.
So all of them are going to get a letter at some point?
Correct.
Okay, and can you tell me why he decided to start with South Korea and Japan? Are they annoying him?
It's the president's prerogative, and those are the countries he chose.
And on the sectoral tariffs, it's our understanding that these continue to be a separate track. We're still waiting on a bunch of those.
That's right.
Is there any timing update on when he's going to move on, for instance, semiconductor tariffs and other things that are still in the hopper?
I don't have a timing update, but for where they are in the process, I would defer you to the Department of Commerce.
Should we expect deals finally as well? He announced his Vietnam deal. Are you close on any other countries?
The president and the administration, yes, we are close. But again, the president wants to ensure these are the best deals possible. And I would add just one more thing on trade and tariffs to wrap it up. Look at the extensive work this president has put into cutting these good deals and doing what's right for the American worker. He is literally looking at the map and looking at every country on the planet and seeing where they are ripping off the American people, seeing where they have hollowed out our industrial base, seeing where our jobs have gone to other countries overseas because of their tariff policies, and he's trying to correct that. So this is decades of bad trade policy that has led to a deficit that is ravaging our country, that is ravaging our middle class, and the president is taking a very deliberate approach to correcting this wrong of many decades, of many past presidents. And so I think he should be commended for the time and the effort that he is putting into this. And the fact that he has announced a framework with China, a trade deal with the United Kingdom, a trade deal with Vietnam, and many others to come in just a matter of 6 months is truly historic, and it's a testament to this president and his trade team who are working around the clock to get this done. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Two questions on Iran. What's the permanent deal with Iran looks like for the president, and what issues related to Iran should it cover? And secondly, has the president seen the interview with Iranian president, which he says that the United States president, Mr. Trump, is capable enough to guide the regions toward a peace and a brighter future, and put Israel in its place, or it gets more into conflict? Has the president seen these comments, and what's his reaction to these comments?
I'm not sure if he's seen those comments, but certainly I think it's true that the president is the right man for the job to move the direction, this region into the direction of peace and stability for the future. That's what he and his national security team are working on every day, and we've already seen historic achievements in that direction. Go ahead. In the back. Kelly, go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank
Sure.
you.
And then in front of you.
Okay, a couple questions for you. First,
Y'all need name tag signs.
First question on the flooding in Texas. I know there has been some concern about the timing of the alerts, knowing that they did go out, but the warnings coming out in the wee hours, so while many people were likely sleeping. Can you share just details what you know about why those warnings were sent while people were likely sleeping, and then what the administration is doing to ensure that these alerts come out sooner?
Well, the alerts imminently were sent out before the flood when people were sleeping, because the flood hit in the very early hours of the morning. So people were sleeping in the middle of the night when this flood came. That was an act of God. It's not the administration's fault that the flood hit when it did. But there were early and consistent warnings. And again, the National Weather Service did its job. On July 2nd, there were initial notices of potential weather and flooding risks were issued. On July 3rd, escalating warnings throughout the day with a flood watch issued at 1:18 p.m. And then later at 6:10 p.m. on July 3rd, the Weather Prediction Center warned of excessive rainfall and a high likelihood of flash flooding. At 6:22 p.m. July 3rd, National Weather Center issued a hydraulic warning highlighting considerable flooding risks, including in Caryville County. And then there were the timely flash flood alerts at 11:41 p.m., 1:14 a.m., and then another flash flood emergency warning issued at 4:03 a.m. just before the flood hit. So those were all of the warnings that went out to the affected area and region. Go ahead.
One question on education funding
Go
for
ahead.
states and local
Thank you very much. I appreciate it,
districts.
Caroline. Two questions for you related to the Prime Minister's visit today. Number one, there's a report circulating that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation provided a proposal to the White House to build these so-called humanitarian transit areas inside and outside of Gaza. The GHF is insistent it has nothing to do with that proposal. Can you shed any light on whether the White House has received such a proposal, and if so, from whom?
I'm unaware if a proposal from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was sent to the White House. I haven't seen it, but I can ask our National Security Council.
And also a document circulating that the White House is prepared to lift the Foreign Terrorist Organization designation from HTS, the group of President al-Shara in Syria. Can you confirm that that's taking place?
Again, I haven't heard that, or I'm not aware of that action taking place. As you know, we did lift particular sanctions on Syria, but we did leave them on for particular terrorist groups. If that has changed, we will, of course, let you know if there's a change in policy, but I'm unaware of one at this time. Sure, go ahead.
Me? Hi, Caroline. Thank you. Ahead of
and then you can go too, since you're so eager.
Ahead of the president's meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, is there a scenario where Israel has made it clear that they will not bring an end to this war until Hamas is decimated? And the president just 5 months ago suggested a potential takeover of Gaza. Is there a situation where tonight the two men will change their posture, and in the scenario that Hamas turns over the remaining hostages, that the war could come to a permanent end, and that they will seek that under that scenario that they would essentially try to bring this war to a permanent end beyond just that 60-day ceasefire?
Again, you're putting a hypothetical situation in the air, so I don't want to comment on that out of respect for these ongoing negotiations and discussions that are taking place. But as for the takeover of Gaza, I don't believe the president ever said that. I think he discussed a rebuilding of Gaza once this war is over. This has become an uninhabitable place for human beings, and the president has a big heart. He wants this to be a prosperous, safe part of the region where people and families can thrive, and there will be a need for a real rebuilding effort when the time comes. But right now we need to end this war, and we need to bring all of the hostages home. The president is adamant about that.
The war tonight?
Look, again, I will let the president speak for himself later if he decides to comment on the details of the agreement, but out of respect for the discussions, I won't do that from the podium. Go ahead.
So Congressman Lawler and Gottheimer have introduced a bill in Congress, the Bunker Buster Act, that would allow the United States to sell B-2 bombers and bunker buster bombs to Israel. Is that something the president would support?
Well, I don't know if the president's aware of the Bunker Buster Act, but I will ask him and see what his opinion on that is. I'm not sure.
Right, thank you.
Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. Building off of the question earlier about the shooter in Texas who targeted ICE, Axios reported today, I believe, that Democrat lawmakers were saying their constituents are calling on them to be more violent when they go to ICE facilities, including, I believe, they want them to shed blood, and that they said that Democrat lawmakers should be willing to get shot themselves. Can you respond to that, and do you have concerns that any of these lawmakers might act on the wishes of their constituents?
It's hard to believe anyone with morals in this country or decency would say such a thing. Obviously, the White House condemns that rhetoric, and we condemn violence of any kind. This administration is simply trying to enforce our laws, and we must be a nation of law and order. You cannot simply waltz across our border and live here illegally and expect to stay. We are going to enforce our nation's laws, and the men and women who are doing that are doing so in a respectful way. They are doing so within the confines of the law, and they are just trying to do their jobs. And we condemn any violence or any calls for violence of any kind against any American. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I wanted to ask you if...
I was not calling on you, but you can go ahead. It's fine. There's a lot of people in here today.
President Trump already saw the letter that the Colombian president Gustavo Petro sent him, apologizing for his comments a few weeks ago, suggesting that there was an involvement from the U.S. government in an alleged coup d'etat in Colombia. And Secretary Rubio recalled the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires in Colombia. Did President Trump saw that letter, and what do you think about the comments from President Petro suggesting that the U.S. has some kind of involvement in a coup?
I'm not sure if the president has seen that letter, but I can check with him in the National Security Council. We will get you a response if you follow up with my team. We will find out for you.
Caroline.
Sure, go ahead. Iris, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline. On two topics.
First, I love how excited everyone is on Monday. Yes, Raquel, you can go after.
On two topics. First, tariffs. The president announced last night that any countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS
That's right.
will be charged with an additional 10% tariff. Can you tell us more details on that? What specific policies is the president talking about here? What policies should countries stay away from to avoid being subject to additional tariffs?
Sure. Well, the president feels, generally speaking, that BRICS is seeking to undermine the interests of the United States. It's the president's utmost responsibility to put the interests of the United States first. That's how he views his job as president. So he's going to ensure that America is fairly treated on the world stage, and he'll take any action necessary to prevent countries from taking advantage of the United States and our people. Raquel, go ahead.
On illegal immigrants, Reuters' Tom Homan told us this morning that ICE will have to arrest 7,000 illegal immigrants every day for the remainder of this administration to just catch the ones that were let in during the last administration. I'm wondering what the new resources and manpower, of course, given by the Big Beautiful Bill, which of course opens the door for ICE to hire additional 10,000 agents and officers. What's the administration's expectations now for daily arrest numbers going forward in the upcoming months?
Sure. I'll let the Secretary of Homeland Security and her department speak on what they're looking for in terms of daily numbers. What I can tell you is I receive the daily reports each morning, and ICE is out there doing the jobs that they swore an oath to do, and they are removing public safety threats from our communities every day, and our country is becoming a safer place because of their efforts. And the One Big Beautiful Bill that is now law will give significant resources to ICE and Border Patrol to continue the tremendous work that they are already doing. And I think every American who wants to live in a safe neighborhood should be grateful for their efforts.
Thank you, Caroline.
Raquel, and then I can go to you.
So much.
And then you, Dr. Harper.
Thank you, Caroline. It's a follow-up on the BRICS question. So does President Trump believe that the BRICS are getting stronger or trying to isolate the United States? And how close is he monitoring this summit that is taking place in Brazil right now?
He's closely monitoring it, which is why he put out a statement himself. He does not perceive these countries as growing stronger. He just perceives them as trying to undermine the United States' interests, and that's not okay with him, no matter how strong or weak a country may be. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
As promised, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Does Trump have a vision for post-war Gaza? You mentioned, he's talking about now the ceasefire, but does he support permanent or temporary Israeli presence in the Gaza Strip? Does he continue to see a continued role for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to continue to operate in the Gaza Strip?
Well, as you know, because we've talked about it before, the president has directed aid to be moved into the region, and that has been taking place. You've actually seen people in the Gaza Strip yelling out, "Thank you, Trump," for the aid and for the meals that they have received, because the previous administration never did that for some reason. But this president, again, wants to see peace and stability in the region. So as I outlined previously, he views this part of the region as having a real chance at being peaceful and prosperous. But again, we need to end this war. We need to get all the hostages home, and Hamas needs to accept this proposal in order to do that. Dr. Harper, go ahead.
I'm Dr. Anthony Harper with the Intermountain Christian News. Thank you for taking my questions. Given the nature of the Palestinian Authority, with their pay to slay, teaching Jew hatred to children, corrupt leaders, and no elections for 19 years, who does President Trump support to govern Area A and Area B to prevent Hamas from ruling? And what is President Trump's position on Israeli sovereignty?
Sure. Well, the president believes Israel, of course, has a right to defend itself. As for the first part of your question, you're getting ahead, Dr. Harper. As I told you, the president wants Hamas to accept this proposal right now. He wants to see peace in this region, and he's committed to doing that. Sean.
Hey, Caroline, can you just please walk us through the decision to halt the supply of weapons to Ukraine at a time when Russia is really hitting Ukrainian cities and civilians? Was that the president who decided that, or did the Pentagon do it without his approval?
No, neither of those things are true. I'm happy to walk you through it. This was a standard review by the Pentagon of all weapons and all aid and all support that the United States is providing all countries and all regions around the world, not just Ukraine. When the Secretary of Defense took office, he directed the Pentagon to conduct this review to ensure that everything that's going out the door aligns with America's interests. So it's a pause to review to ensure that everything the Pentagon is pushing out there is in the best interest of our military and our men and women in uniform. Fran.
Two questions on Israel. You suggested that Hamas is the impediment currently to a ceasefire. So if not a ceasefire deal, then what does the president hope to achieve with tonight's dinner with the prime minister?
Again, you guys are getting around to a lot of hypotheticals. I don't want to get ahead of the president, but there are many other issues to discuss with Prime Minister Netanyahu tonight related to the region and just the entire world. So this will be a dinner to talk about Operation Midnight Hammer, which was incredibly successful, to talk about peace in Gaza and ending that conflict, as well as many other topics of discussion in relation to Israel and the United States. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Given the fact, this is on the trade letters, given the fact that the president put into effect the tariffs on April 2nd and then put the pause into place, is the president at all concerned that these countries that are receiving the letters won't take them seriously because the deadline seems to have shifted already and may shift again?
They will take the letters seriously because they have taken the president seriously, and that's why the president's phone, I can tell you, rings off the hook from world leaders all the time who are begging him to come to a deal. And this administration is working hard to ensure those deals are in the best interest of the American people. And this delay, again, is in the best interest of the American people. And you all will continue to see these letters released on the President's Truth Social, and we will see you all later. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Caroline.
And there you have it, the Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt handling questions on a variety of topics today at the White House. Some of the stories that are most impactful for the nation and the world would be the historic flooding in Texas and some of the devastation there, where the death toll is approaching 90, including many children and counselors at a Camp Mystic that has become much talked about. Of course, such a horrible situation down in Texas. One word from the press secretary there is that President Donald Trump does plan to visit the flood-devastated regions of Texas later this week, not giving a specific date, but calling this a once-in-a-generation national disaster. That visit likely Friday, though no final decision on that has been made. And a different kind of visit coming from members of the administration, an envoy from the Trump administration, Steve Witkoff, will go to the Qatari capital city later this week to hold ceasefire-related talks there, as the administration is trying to push for a ceasefire and hostage deal in the war between Hamas and Israel in the Gaza Strip. This comes on the same day, that announcement, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in D.C. for a private dinner with the president tonight at the White House. He is also scheduled to meet with Witkoff and Secretary of State Marco Rubio before that dinner tonight. So we won't see the Oval Office public meeting that we've seen with so many other foreign leaders coming through the White House with Netanyahu now in D.C., but a private dinner tonight as those two leaders try to reach an end to the war in Gaza while also discussing the joint operations in Iran and the strikes against the Iranian nuclear program. And then a couple of the other things I wanted to mention from that press briefing included letters that went out today and were posted by President Donald Trump on his Truth Social account that he heard from there that are going to two crucial U.S. allies in Asia, Japan and South Korea, with the president announcing today that 25% tariffs would go on goods imported from Japan and South Korea, citing persistent trade imbalances with those allies overseas. Those would begin August 1st. And potentially could change, of course, as the administration hopes that a further deal-making could happen. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, saying also 12 additional countries will be receiving similar letters, though she wasn't going to name those countries, leaving that up to the president to post that news. But Japan and South Korea, two main U.S. allies in Asia, facing the potential of 25% tariffs on goods imported to the U.S. from those countries starting August 1st. And just as a reaction, we'll pop up the Dow Jones Industrial numbers for you here. Let me pop that up right now. Down more than a percentage point on the day, almost 500 points down. You can see the steady decline throughout the day today up until what is about 2 o'clock Eastern time out there in New York City. And then the other big story I mentioned, the president likely touring parts of Texas later this week, but this is a live look at some of the devastation, the floodwaters still left behind in parts of Kerr County in Texas, where, close to 90 people have died. Just an awful scene there. So many children, so many other people without even a chance as those floodwaters rose rapidly throughout the night, Thursday into Friday, and continued to devastate throughout the weekend. All right, we are going to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Defenbaugh with you here in our Milwaukee studios. We'll get to some of the news locally today. I know that was a long stretch with the press secretary there, but handling a series of serious issues, I should say. We will get back to some of the news locally for you after this. From our studios here in Milwaukee, it is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Defmo with you here on this Monday afternoon. It is 1:04. Haven't even cracked 70 degrees yet officially here in Milwaukee after all the heat we had for the 4th of July. Kind of a nice respite after some storms came through yesterday, cooled us down, and today we get to see this beautiful view of downtown Milwaukee with what appears to be maybe perhaps a spider also trying to make its appearance on the Wisconsin Live Desk here for us there at the very top of your screen. Now, as we chat about Milwaukee, we know a series of stories recently have been the closures of some staple stores and franchises throughout the city of Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin. Recently, it was the announcement from Kroger, the parent company of Pick 'n Save, that 5 different locations in our area were going to close. Before that, we'd covered a series of Walgreens stores in Wisconsin that were going to close, and we just got word that one down in Racine is also going to close. The location at State and Memorial in Racine, the Walgreens store there, is going to close August 5th, part of a shrinking from the company that's happening. And while I get you some more information on that, I do want to pop up another camera feed that we're following here. This appears to be live cameras from Los Angeles. You can see a whole bank of photographers and other officials there working around to try to discuss what is happening. It appears in parts of Los Angeles. The word that we're getting from our reporting partners out there is that these were aerials from KTTV, the Fox station in Los Angeles, providing aerials of a DHS raid, Department of Homeland Security raid. We're not entirely sure what those cameras are centered on right there, as it appears they are doing a potential interview right now or trying to speak to officials there. All of this happening while we speak right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So certainly something we will cover with this helicopter aerial footage provided by KTTV, our sister station out in Los Angeles. You can see a lot of armored vehicles there, different military, or excuse me, I should say law enforcement personnel, as well as those many different television cameras as well, and looks like a bit of a heated exchange happening momentarily there. So if we get word on what exactly is happening on the ground in Los Angeles, we will certainly bring you that here live on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But an example, an aerial view as this appears to be happening outside of a park or lagoon in the Los Angeles area. All that we've gotten is word of a DHS raid in Los Angeles, and certainly the site of all of those heavily armored vehicles and different members of law enforcement heavily armed there as well. But it appears like there is a press conference or some kind of media briefing happening with all those cameras surrounding some of the officials in Los Angeles. So if we get some word from our coverage on what's happening in LA right now, that is certainly something that we will try to bring you an update on here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Now back here in the studio, I'll just get you the last little bit of information on what was happening with that Walgreens. So again, another Walgreens location in southeastern Wisconsin scheduled to close, unfortunately. This would be the location at State and Memorial in Racine. Will be closing August 5th with a statement from the company saying that location will permanently close. We're sorry for any inconvenience this may cause. If you have prescriptions at that location, it will permanently close August 5th. And you can learn about filling your prescription at another Walgreens location instead. Now that was a notable location actually. It was back in mid-June, June 18th or so, that Walgreens was actually driven into. There was a crash at that store. We had footage of that from our own reporting on that day. So the parent company, of course, Walgreens nationally, making the decision to close that store instead of keeping it open. And I do want to bring it back to that, excuse me, not the White House, but out on the other coast of Los Angeles right now, as you're seeing some more, just that gathering of cameras and people. It's kind of moved around this road here. It appears following an official there getting into that black SUV. Couldn't quite make it out. I wasn't sure if it was a member of the Department of Homeland Security there. We were told this was a raid of some kind happening in LA, or perhaps if it was the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, getting into that vehicle. Could not see from this feed, but this is something that just popped up from KTTV. That's Fox 11 in Los Angeles, covering this today, and we're getting their Let's see, federal agents, surrounding MacArthur Park, apparently, an ICE operation underway in downtown Los Angeles in the area of MacArthur Park. And unclear if that operation has since wrapped up, if that was an appearance there by an official speaking to that, but a federal immigration enforcement operation happening once again in Los Angeles, as we of course had seen weeks ago, what that led to in terms of riots and protests in response to ICE operations in Los Angeles. The president sending in the National Guard, despite the fact Governor Gavin Newsom did not want that to take place. And it appears yet again that different immigration enforcement is happening still in Los Angeles today at this very moment here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, as we give you a live look above what I believe is MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. All right, we have to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Much more to come as we keep it rolling here on this Monday afternoon. Carl Deffenbaugh with you. We'll be back after this short break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back. We roll right along here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh with you here at 1:13 on this Monday afternoon. We are here each and every Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 2:30, the Wisconsin Live Desk, where we have the ability to pop around as much as we can to different news happening, certainly here in the Midwest and, of course, in the state of Wisconsin, being the Wisconsin Live Desk, but also around the country as it happens. Federal agents in what appear to be MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, California, conducting immigration enforcement operations in that city once again. Of course, ICE operations in LA led to days of protests, serious damage and injuries in Los Angeles, and of course the flashpoint that became the decision of President Donald Trump to send the National Guard to LA, despite Governor Gavin Newsom not asking for them specifically, something that had not happened in decades here in the country, the National Guard being sent without the request of a governor of that state. So it remains to be seen what is happening. We saw a number of different law enforcement folks in this area, some heavily armored vehicles as well, and then what appeared to be a very brief press gaggle of some kind with a bunch of cameras and reporters surrounding a few people there in Los Angeles. But if we do get some more information on what exactly is happening in LA and who some of these people involved are, we'll try to bring that to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. In the meantime, we'll switch to a much lighter story for you, giving you a live look at American Family Field there, where the roof is open and the Brewers are back in town. And it has been a quite substantial few days here, coming off the weekend, a win against the Miami Marlins down in Florida, and then what's to come this week with the Brewers back in town hosting the Los Angeles Dodgers and then the Washington Nationals for this upcoming homestand. And it's all about the pitching in many ways, past, present, and future kind of the Milwaukee Brewers and of baseball for that matter on display for the Crew recently. So yesterday you had Brandon Woodruff back on the mound, basically more than 600 days since shoulder surgery put such a damper on his recent career. Finally back on a major league mound after some setbacks during his rehab as well. And Woodruff produced a fantastic outing for him. The Brewers get the win, including a series win, and just great to see Woodruff, who was so key to so many of those playoff runs for the Brewers, back performing. What an addition that could be if he continues to pitch at that level for the Crew the rest of the season, as they're about 10 games over 500, second place in the National League Central right now. But then it's what's to come. So the next couple days at American Family Field with the roof open there are going to be a whole lot of fun. Tonight you get the newly minted All-Star Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Crew to open that series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, against a fellow All-Star. That would be the Dodgers' recent addition, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, coming over from Japan, who's been sensational for the Dodgers so far. But Peralta, how cool is that? Second All-Star nod for him. Right now, he's the only Milwaukee Brewer to be named to the National League All-Star roster, so we'll see if any of that changes with player availability and the like. But pretty cool for Freddie Peralta, who's been so solid for so much of this year for the Crew. 9-4, a 2.91 ERA, just continues to produce time and again when he takes the mound for the Brewers. And we'll see what he can do tonight against a stacked Los Angeles Dodgers lineup. Shohei Ohtani and others all in the mix for LA. And then tomorrow, that is what folks really have their eye on here. That would be the pitching matchup of what the Brewers hope will be one of their best pitchers going forward, the phenom Jacob Misiorowski, who has been absolutely lights out so far for the Crew. 3-1, has taken his first loss, but overall just fantastic. A 3.2 ERA, 21 strikeouts already. The flamethrower who can top 100 miles per hour with ease and often has been really solid up until really his last start against the Mets. He gave up 5 runs in just 3 2/3 innings pitched, but before that was just sensational for the Crew. So we'll see if he can bounce back, work his way through that Dodgers lineup against Clayton Kershaw, someone who certainly knows a thing or two about throwing heat and producing on a pitching mound. Recently had his 3,000th career strikeout. I believe just the 4th lefty in baseball history to accomplish that feat. Kershaw has been so good for so long for the Dodgers. Multiple time Cy Young winner. The Brewers hope Misiorowski could reach those lofty heights maybe eventually in his career, but just getting started, and it'll be fun tomorrow night at the ballpark. Miz versus Kershaw. It seems like he just keeps getting lined up with these great pitchers. Was against Paul Skeens, got the better of him when the Pirates were in town. Now it's the Dodgers and Misiorowski Kershaw on the mound tomorrow after Freddie Peralta pitches for the Crew tonight. So there you go. You can tell I'm excited for the series to come for the Crew. Should be some good baseball to watch out there at the ballpark, and the roof open on what should be a great night as well for the tailgaters and all the fun happening at American Family Field. All right, time for another break. We do have a report from our Aaron Maben coming up for you after this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Quite the story he is following, including the video that goes with it. And we'll get with Aaron about that happening after this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
It is the Wisconsin Live Desk here on this Monday afternoon, and we want to get back to the news here in Wisconsin. We've had a whole series of things, certainly with the flooding that has happened down in Texas, a big meeting between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and President Donald Trump at the White House coming later today. But here locally, our own Aaron Maben, as we bring him in now, working on quite an interesting story where video is really at the heart of this, Aaron. You've come up with a creative way to share that video with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. First and foremost, take it away. What story are you covering today? What do people have to look forward to here on Fox Local a little later on?
You know, Carl, yeah, over the weekend I got a tip from someone letting me know about this really upsetting situation. A girl and her dad, they're at a gas station, a local gas station at 60th and Hampton. So they're there minding their own business, they're checking out, and then they tell me that they're robbed, right, at gunpoint. And then we get the video of this, and it's really alarming. So let me kind of play it for you. How this came together was we got a tip, we followed up on it, now we have that video. Let me show it really fast, and we'll talk more about it in a moment. So this is the girl, this is her dad right here, sunglasses on her head. You can see this young man walking into the store, looks at both of them, dad checks him out. He notices other people coming into the store. And I just want to pause it right here. I want to pause it right here for a moment. So we know that this is going to be our suspect, Carl. These are the victims. And you'll notice that his hand is in his waistband. We have other angles that shows that what is believed to be a gun is in his waistband. So just notice how he's moving right here too. Gets a better shot of it. He watches someone go out, and then watch this moment right here. I want to pause it right there. So watch it together again. So he just snatches the sunglasses off this girl's face. Dad is right in front of her. Then he takes a few steps back, looks at the camera, and just like that, he points this gun at this man, at this girl. The gun is pointed right here. And he walks out of the store. It's actually a pull, not a push door, so he struggles to get out. And you can see Dad is really frustrated. Here's another angle of him, Carl, running out of the store. He's putting that gun back into his waistband, and he's running off. Let's just show you a closer look at this one more time. You see, he walks around her. She notices him. He notices them too. He waits for that right opportunity, that prime moment, and snatches it. And you see another angle right here. He's pointing that gun, and this man's hand is right there. So all this happened on July 3rd. This is around 2:20 in the evening on July 3rd. Again, a girl and her dad are inside of a gas station. They're checking out when a man robs them of some sunglasses. We've learned that they are Cartier sunglasses. These are really expensive sunglasses. But these sunglasses, Carl, have a story. She told me that she got them from her fiance, who's actually passed away. So her fiance's passed away, and he gave them to her before his passing, and he actually died because of gun violence, according to her. So she has no patience, no tolerance for any young people doing this, but also any gun violence too. I want to pull up a clip really quick. This is during our phone interview. She asked that we didn't share her name at all. But here's a clip of me asking her some questions. You can hear her voice and how upset she is. My first question for her was, how are you feeling? Let's listen together.
Not good, shaking up a bit.
Can you walk me through what's happening here? So you and your dad were you were at the store?
You know, we had walked into the gas station, and we were in there for a couple seconds, and then the guy comes in. I seen him, and I'm like, okay, I see him. Then I finished doing what I was doing. Next thing you know, he snatched my glasses, and I turned around, and he upped the gun. And he was like, back up, I'll shoot you. And then I backed up because I'm not going to lose my life over no glasses. I backed up and he took off running out of the door onto the side of the building and jumped in the car that was waiting on him. And he pulled off.
What is it like for you guys to have that moment where a gun's pointed at you? What was that moment like?
It was terrifying, for sure. It was very out of the ordinary. Like, I was caught by surprise because I'm like, wow, really? Like, I see this stuff happening, but to actually have it happen to you is a different feeling than actually seeing it happen. So it was a shock for me, for sure.
So, Carl, that's just a little sliver of our interview that's going to be airing tonight at 4 and 5 and also 6 o'clock on FOX6 News. But just a terrifying and an upsetting situation when you walk through this video and you watch it with me. I did reach out to Milwaukee police. They tell me that they're aware of the situation. They're investigating it. They do not have anyone in custody, but there are some really good pictures here. People in the neighborhood were asking me to look at a picture too, to just see if they know him. So a lot of people are going to see their eyes on this video, and hopefully they'll say something and they'll catch this person, Carl.
The other thing that struck me right away there, Aaron, is how fortunate that father is, right, in the red, that it didn't end up worse than that. It's such an odd interaction that the person is clearly like kind of puts the gun under the arm to grab the glasses and almost like turns away from them before then whipping around and pointing the gun back at the father. I mean, this could have gone even worse than it already did. I'm sure a terrifying moment for that woman and that father for sure, but what it could have been is even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And she knows someone who's a victim of gun violence, so she understands just how delicate these situations are and how they can go haywire and just at any second, right? So this could have been a much different story. That's so interesting that you mentioned the gun and the arm, because we saw that too. And I had to take it a few times, like, he's already taken it out of his waistband. Then it's in his arm. Then he turns around. So he was really strategic with all this too. This is so bold. This is brazen. It's in broad daylight. There are people clearly coming in and out of the store. And it happened at a store where there are, I believe there are 18 cameras inside the store. So they have a number of angles, not only inside the store, but also outside too. We're also going to be talking about the getaway car, because the getaway car is also drops him off, loops around the building, and then picks him up in a different location. So they obviously planned how this thing was going to go down, Carl.
Interesting, interesting. Aaron Maben covering this for us. And yeah, it is the video that really tells the story for this. So we'll look for more of that and hear more of that interview with the victim tonight here on Fox Local. Aaron, thank you for joining us, and really fascinating way to bring that story to us visually here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. As Aaron gets back to it, it is 1:29. We do have time for just one more commercial break here, and then we'll get you back to the Wisconsin Live Desk after this. But look for Aaron's story and more of that video later this evening on Fox Local and the FOX6 Milwaukee YouTube channel.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Carl Defenbaugh back with you, and just a sleeve of Kim Murphy's dress over there. She has arrived, people. Hello, Kim. Ready to take over the Wisconsin Live Desk. To take you behind the scenes, this is basically a closet, right? This was the edit suite. There's not a lot of room, so when we do this changeover, this is what you get. All right, we are going to leave you with a couple things here as Kim's about to take over for the second hour of the Live Desk. First and foremost, this is still some of the aerial footage we're getting from KTTV, our sister station in Los Angeles. Some of that immigration enforcement operation that was happening in MacArthur Park. We did get confirmation from our sister station out there that these were federal agents surrounding part of the park doing immigration raids this morning, LA time. And that was the LA mayor, Karen Bass, who's kind of been on the opposite side of things when it goes back to the protests and riots in LA following previous immigration enforcement. She did make a brief appearance. That was who we saw in some of that video we had for you earlier on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So we'll see if we can get some more information on what she said, what her take on it was, while also federal agents continue immigration raids in MacArthur Park, now leaving that scene in downtown Los Angeles today. That's something you watch live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And as Kim and I get ready to do the handoff here, we will also get you a live picture here from Texas, Kerr County, the hardest hit of that devastating flooding that came through after severe rain in the area. We know dozens and dozens, close to 90 people confirmed dead, with others still missing. A camp in the area with a number of both children and counselors were devastated. Camp Mystic says they lost 27 of their campers and counselors in that flooding with barely any time to respond, although we know that many, many more were actually saved by some heroic efforts at that camp as well. So we'll leave this picture up for you live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Swap out. Kim Murphy will be with you after this. Thanks for watching.
regardless of the situation. We've asked them to step away from their families, child care, things like that. When we put the request out to our troopers, we had the complete roster filled up within 2 hours, and that was late last night that this request came.
How many people are you sending, and what is the initial plan when they arrive there?
So we're in constant communication with the Department of Public Safety for Texas, as well as the Texas Rangers. We're sending a contingency of 20 uniformed officers, and we will be in constant communication to see where we are needed. Right now, we are going to be assisting with the search and recovery operations with Texas Department of Public Safety and the Texas Rangers.
Does that mean actually like out searching in the debris and maybe out on boats and things like that? How would that go about?
Sure. Most likely we're going to be searching a river basin. That's tentatively what our plan is. Understand that they're getting a lot of resources thrown at them at the moment, so we're going to be
How would that go about?
Sure. Most likely we're going to be searching a river basin. That's tentatively what our plan is. Understand that they're getting a lot of resources thrown at them.
Good afternoon. This is Kim Murphy with the Wisconsin Live Desk. Welcome to this Monday afternoon. You just heard a little bit of a replay. Ohio is sending resources down to Texas to help with the search and recovery of so many who are still missing after flash floods over the weekend and just rain that just was not anticipated to the extent, to the magnitude that it caused such flash flooding in a camp, a girls' camp, devastated by the loss of both campers and counselors. We're going to take a quick break, recombobulate, if you will. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hi, Hi there, I'm Kim Murphy, and welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Monday afternoon, filling in for Ben Handelman. Hope he is enjoying this wonderful day. Today is supposed to be the pig day of the week, and then we get more humidity, blah, blah, blah. That's blah, 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 yada, yada, together. You know how when you've been off for a couple days and you come back and it's like, oh yeah, how do I do this? Do I remember how to do this? So bear with me if it seems a little bit rough for the first couple of minutes or for the whole hour, but that's part of the fun of the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take you right now, or we were going to take you to Philadelphia, where there's a news conference that was going on about public safety, a strike there, concerns. Philadelphia, a city just like our own, dealing with youth violence and summer violence. Let's listen in.
Yes, ma'am. That's it, right? The 3-day weekend, that's correct. That's correct. I think that included, the numbers I gave you included this morning. Yeah, they including this morning as well, so it actually took us for 4 days. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, we would have to go through the data, but I've been at it a long time. Yes. I don't know. I don't characterize. I mean, you know, unfortunately, we have 19 incidents, and unfortunately, 2 of those results in significant level. It's hard to characterize it. I mean, it's just it's just part of the work when you, and we just keep plowing. No, we'll walk through that. We're working through that process now. We don't have it. That's part of our investigative work, and the team is working through that process now. Thank you.
And so what you're listening to, or what you just heard, was a response from city officials there. There's a strike. The AFSCME District Council 33 on strike. This is impacting many of Philadelphia's services, including 911 dispatch, trash removal, water, and more. The strike went into effect at 12:01 Tuesday, July 1st, after the union and the city failed to reach a deal. This union represents about 9,000 workers employed in city functions, again, such as sanitation, the water department, police dispatch, and street maintenance at the airport. So that news conference has just wrapped up there, but that is what is going on right now in Philadelphia. And so we'll keep an eye on that situation. Going to take you now to the White House. President Trump this morning says that he plans to place tariffs, 25% tariffs, on goods from Japan and South Korea starting on August 1st. So that is something else to be on the lookout for. Hopefully those nations will follow suit with other countries have done before the tariffs have actually gone into effect. There's been talk, negotiations to kind of avoid that situation. So we hope that that's the case. But August 1st, the president says 25% tariffs on goods from Japan and South Korea will go into effect. So what else is going on? So we know that the Bucks had a blockbuster business week with so many trades and so on and so forth, like all the familiar faces, all of our favorites. The only one left standing, Bobby Portis Jr., has been re-signed. The mayor of Milwaukee, the unofficial mayor of Milwaukee, is staying. So that is good news. Bobby is staying. But we're losing Pat Connaughton, and this morning we have found out where he's going to land. He's going to the Charlotte Hornets. So after 7 seasons here in Milwaukee, Pat Connaughton is headed to Charlotte, and we are, of course, going to see him on the hardwood, on the court when the season begins, but just sad, you know, that the Bucks had to do something after a couple of seasons where we barely made it to the playoffs, and then we had such an early exit. So it was disappointing, and so something had to change. We've been through the coaching changes, and so now we've got Doc Rivers, and I think we're going to have him for a little bit because we're still paying Doc. We are Adrian, I can't even remember what his name was, but you know what I'm saying. We've had a couple coaches that we're still paying their salaries on, and so some moves had to be made, and one of those moves was Damian Lillard. So he gets the best of the deal. He gets to rehab for the next year, and then he gets to go wherever he wants to go after that. And thirdly, the Bucks will pay out the remainder of his contract over the next 5 years. So Carl was in LA before we did the handoff. This is what's happening. There was an ice operation. Federal agents surrounded a park in California. And let's kind of listen to what's happening.
Not like the actual mechanic that works on it, but, you know, the machinery. If those things overheat or whatever. Yeah. Oh, I would, yeah. Pretty solid. Right. Yeah, but so they can't, well, you don't use it in a pursuit.
As we do here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, you get to hear exactly how we actually conduct our business, how we go about our jobs, and we're following this. Federal agents surrounded a park earlier, MacArthur Park, that's in LA, late this morning, and we know from the aerial images from SkyFox that several agents surrounded the park at the intersection of Wilshire Boulevard and South Alvarado Streets. A Homeland Security helicopter was seen overhead. Agents were on the ground, also in armored vehicles and on horseback. And by 11 o'clock LA time, LA's mayor Karen Bass was on the scene, and she was surrounded by media as well as federal agents, kind of reacting to what appeared to be an ICE operation. And she said in a statement that they need to leave. They need to leave right now because this is unacceptable. Before she made that statement, she was heard on the phone, according to our sister station in LA, our Fox station, saying, what's the time frame before they leave? So it's unclear who she was speaking to, how much of a heads up she was given, but this is an ongoing flashpoint in LA. The anti-ICE protests have happened in LA County, Orange counties, over the agency's enforcement, which began Friday, June 6th. These raids on immigrant communities in workplaces like Home Depot, there was a raid. And the mayor, Karen Bass, there saying that these actions, in her view, seem arbitrary, invasive, and it sparked so much outrage. So you are just kind of taking a look at what now has been a fairly common, or becoming more common image, I should say, in LA since June, where these ICE enforcement operations are happening. So we are going to keep an eye on that. And as we hop around, let's go back to Philadelphia. This is what we call B-roll in the business. So a reporter is out there, he or she is doing a story on the strike that started at 12:01 Tuesday, July 1st. The union that represents the sanitation workers, the water department, police dispatch, street maintenance, and maintenance at the airport. Some 9,000 workers are on strike in Philadelphia right now. And so this is having, as you can imagine, quite the effect on residents in Philadelphia, especially after a holiday weekend. Let's just talk about trash pickup alone. You know, from our 4th of July celebrations around Milwaukee, so much trash was left behind. The street sweepers, the trash collections, all those things are on hold. They're paused right now in Philadelphia as this strike now is nearly 1 week old. And so we'll keep an eye on that. But on Saturday, the talks ended with no agreement. And there was a plan to submit a new offer to the city and meet tomorrow. So hopefully this gets resolved. But, you know, when trash collection stops in a city, that can be catastrophic if, you know, it's your neighborhood where the trash is collecting, especially in the summertime, when you worry about perhaps more pests, rodents being attracted to garbage, and just not the situation you want to have, especially when you add in the heat and the humidity. So that is the situation that they are dealing with in Philadelphia. Again, 9,000 workers represented by a union. The ASME District Council 33, they are on strike. They have been since July 1st. And they want to sit down and have talks. And those negotiations broke down on Saturday. Hopefully they will have something to discuss, to hash out tomorrow. That is the plan. But As I'm looking at the websites in Philadelphia, the trash collection centers, and the collection days, I mean, there's just dozens of neighborhoods that are affected. And this is going to have quite the effect if they don't get down to business and try to figure out some way to come to an agreement. You know, we don't really realize the essentialness of workers sometimes until something like this. So there are waste drop-offs that are being now organized, collection centers on certain days. So people may have to resort to taking the trash to one of these drop-off centers on their own if the strike is not resolved anytime soon. And, you know, who wants to do that and who maybe has the time to do that? But the mayor of Philly says the latest offer from the city, she called historic and fiscally responsible. But again, as of midday, the two sides had no plans to talk today. Since then, neither side has budged on their demands. The mayor there has said that this is fiscally responsible. We're hearing a lot, not only in city budgets, state budgets, but of course that has been the big buzzword as the big, beautiful bill was passed, signed into law over the weekend, to be fiscally responsible. So Philadelphia's mayor is saying that the city's offer would raise wages by more than 13%. It's the largest, or would be the largest, increase. Philadelphia mayor in her first term has extended to this district, this council, in more than 30 years. It's a larger increase over 4 years for municipal blue-collar union workers than recent agreements in New York, D.C., Washington, and Phoenix. So she says the city of Philly has put its best offer on the table, and unfortunately, District Council 33 did not accept it. The city of Philadelphia offered to return to the table today, and the union did not accept the offer. So that is what is going on right now in Philadelphia. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Kim Murphy. We were just checking in on Philadelphia, where it's now day 6 of a strike with District Council 33. That's a union that represents 9,000 city workers in different capacities. And This comes at the most inopportune time for the city, right after the 4th of July holiday. Mounds of trash not being collected on city streets and homes and residences. So other city workers are now being shifted over to help take that trash to the mound or to the city dump there. So right now there are no plans to come back to the talking table. Philadelphia's mayor has said that this offer to the union is fiscally responsible, and it's a good offer. In her opinion, it's more than 13%, and it is the largest increase offer in more than 30 years. It's a larger increase over 4 years for municipal blue-collar workers in the union. It's bigger than agreements that were reached in New York, Washington, D.C., Washington, and Phoenix. So quite literally the mess there in Philadelphia. I'm also going to take you now to Texas, where we continue to follow just devastation over the weekend. After that, search teams are still looking for survivors. More rain is expected after flash floods in Texas over the weekend. Just incredible. I mean, I don't know, and that's going to be the question after this is all resolved, is how do you plan? Was there some failure in getting the word out to people that this danger was a possibility? A camp there, a girls' camp, Camp Mystic, on the banks of the Guadalupe River, lost a number of campers. 27 campers and counselors are presumed dead. And in all in those floods, 90 people so far are presumed dead. Up to 12 inches of rain fell in south central Texas on July 4th in the early morning hours. This is according to the National Weather Service and some of their estimates. When we see something like this, climate change is said almost in the same breath. It's driving more extreme rains across much of the U.S. In shorter periods of time, and that's exactly what we saw in Texas. Up to 12 inches of rain starting in the early morning hours in an area known as Flash Flood Alley, because the limestone hills and the downpours, there's just nowhere for that. The ground just does not absorb the rain, and even if it did, with such rain coming down so heavily and so quickly, it just had nowhere to go. And unfortunately, it caused these flash floods. And so the rescue efforts are still happening there. But the flood, just another example of the dangers that we are seeing more of because of climate change. We're going to take a break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
It sure is, and we're on the 2 o'clock hour, and we've got Brett Lemoyne joining us from Waukesha County. I should preface that by saying Waukesha County reporter, soon-to-be mayor, Brett Lemoyne. How's it going, Brett?
All right, thank you for having me, Kim. Yes, where else would you find the Waukesha County reporter but in Waukesha County? Do you like road construction, Kim?
I don't, but I know that it's part of life.
It is part of life, right? And we're right in the heart of it. It's road construction season. We're going to talk to you a little bit about a project that has not quite reached even boots on the ground, shovels in the dirt yet, but it's being talked about right now, and it's a pretty big deal out here in Waukesha County. Right now I'm in Sussex, right alongside Highway K, which is also Lisbon Road. And you can see it is a busy stretch, but one thing you might notice, Kim, is it's one lane in both directions right here. And Waukesha County's been looking into this for quite a while, and they said this has got to change, mainly because of what's across the street, which is Land and Stone here. And you can see, if we keep our cameras right there at the driveway at Land and Stone, you'll see dump truck after dump truck coming out of there. So the county's been looking at ways to improve County Highway K, and what they've come up with is expanding it to 4 lanes. They want to add some roundabouts as well. This is for a 6-mile stretch of K that goes through Lisbon, Sussex, Menominee Falls, and Brookfield. One of the big things beyond the dump truck traffic that you see is if we swing around to the other side, Justin, let's take a look at the other end here, which is this train track, right? Seemingly not a problem. Well, guess what? The county says there are up to 34 freight trains that come through here each and every day. So when you combine all these things, it has set traffic back by a considerable margin. In fact, studies have been done. The average for traffic crashes here, it's almost 3.5 times the state average. So it's a pretty dangerous stretch, and the county has even admitted it is a pretty dangerous stretch. In fact, there have been 4 deaths here from 2019 to 2023. So the county is proposing a $100 million project that would virtually transform this area. Like we said, expanding from 1 lane in both directions to 2 lanes in both directions, 4 total. Now, it wouldn't get done, Kim, until 2031.
Wow.
Which I know seems like a really long way away, right?
Right.
But there's so much work that needs to get done in order for that to happen, in order for them to hit the 2031 deadline.
I'm going to back you up a little bit,
federal...
if I can interrupt you, because you know, we all complain. It's like our favorite pastime is to complain about construction in Wisconsin, but the very important reason for this is because this is a dangerous stretch.
Yeah, very dangerous. Like we said, almost 3.5 times the statewide average for vehicle crashes here. And like we said, there have been 4 deaths in just a couple of years span. So yes, it's very, very dangerous. So that's why the county is going up for some federal grants, and they're pretty competitive. I didn't know much about the federal grant process until working on this story today.
It's like The Bachelor.
Of highway reconstruction.
Like the counties,
Yes.
You know, they each have their rows and they're hoping that the federal government picks them. That's how
they go with orange traffic cones instead of roses.
Exactly. I think we got a game show.
Yes.
Before I let you go, you mentioned that when this is all done, we're going to see another roundabout. In my opinion, Waukesha County has more roundabouts than any place in southeastern Wisconsin. And when there's the double roundabout, I'm going 5 miles per hour. It slows me down.
Yep. Yeah. No, I don't have any statistics to back that up if we have more than other counties, but yes, we are quite fond of the roundabout here in Waukesha County. But they are really hopeful that not only will those roundabouts and also an overpass over the train tracks behind me, that they'll be able to make this a much safer area. The public's feedback, real quick, Kim, I just want to get this in. The public's feedback is needed in order to kind of help the county secure these federal grants. There's going to be a meeting on July 9th, that's this Wednesday, from 4:30 to 6:30. It's going to be at the Sussex Civic Center. So they're encouraging people to show up, give your input, because they really want this grant to come through. It would cover about 80% of the cost.
Wow.
And they also want to know what other people think about this particular project.
Are you anticipating, are there some, like, it looks to be commercial, but I would imagine if there's some homes, residents may not be too fond of seeing this go from a 2-lane, to a larger, more trafficked area. So are we expecting some people to not want this project?
Well, I suppose you could always expect that, no matter what, that there would be some opposition in any project. As you pointed out, Kim, this is a relatively industrial area where we're at right here. But again, this is a 6-mile stretch.
Honk if you like Brett Lemoyne.
Honk if you want to live, I think is probably what they're saying, because it's so dangerous. Yeah. But this is a 6-mile stretch, and so it does encompass a pretty significant portion of Waukesha County.
All right, so we've talked about a lot, so I want to just get to the bottom line. So this is happening Highway K, and what's the duration of this project?
Well, if they get the grant approved, which they hope to get by next year, shovels would be in the ground, and this could be complete by 2031, which again seems like a long way away. But in terms of the size and scope of this project, they're calling it massive. That it is a pretty quick turnaround when you consider all things.
And Wednesday there is a meeting in Sussex for folks to weigh in on find out more of what this project will look like, how it will impact them, and improve safety. So Brett Lemoyne, thanks so much for taking time from your work day, and we'll see this story later on in FOX 6 News.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
Yeah, thank you. And that's Brett Lemoyne, Waukesha County reporter. And so lots of construction going on, but all of those projects are because, the bottom line is it's safety. Either the roads have not been really, they degrade with our climates and the volume, and traffic patterns change. And so repairs need to be made, and then also just how areas have changed in terms of population. And so some areas, they need to increase the volumes for some of those interstates and some of those highways. So it's always about safety when these projects happen. No matter how inconvenient they are, the bottom line is the goal is to improve safety. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the Wisconsin Live Desk in a moment.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Monday after the big holiday. I trust that you had a good one, and welcome back. Keeping up on things that are happening here locally, and of course, anywhere it happens. If it happens during our Wisconsin Live Desk, we're going to take you there. Any moment now, we are expecting a news conference with California's Governor Newsom, talking about the wildfire recovery efforts, giving an update on those. It seems like we don't actually end wildfire season. We just kind of bleed into another, and California certainly is at the forefront of that. So as soon as the governor begins to speak and we get some audio on that, we're going to take you there. So that's one of the things that we are covering. Also want to give you another shot of the White House. President Trump this morning, back to work as well. Actually, the president never stops working, but he has announced that he's got plans to place 25% tariffs on goods from Japan and South Korea starting on August 1st. So keep an eye out on that, and hopefully talks will take place before now and then so that we can avert that. We realize now just how much of what we consume as consumers, unfortunately, comes from outside of the United States. And so that has been the impetus for the president imposing these tariffs. One is to bring manufacturing back to the United States, but also, he says, to balance the playing field. So we will see what comes of that as I do a quick Google search to find out what kind of things come from Japan. I mean, I'm sure automotive parts, big on that list, so bear with me as I do that. So we are talking about imports, and Japan's import tariffs, after our quick Google search, are some of the lowest in the world, averaging about 2.5%. However, when we talk about some of the products that have higher tariffs, we're talking about alcoholic beverages, some food items, and clothing. And there's been some discussion about increasing the tariffs on some of those items. So again, the president's increasing his pressure on other countries. He said that he has signed letters dictating that there will be a 25% increase in tariffs to Japan and other countries if they don't come to the table. So we're talking about car parts could potentially be affected here with this. Dozens of nations have already been in talks with the president to counter these tariffs, hoping to avoid them, and some have been successful. So we'll see what happens with this, but 25% is the number that we are looking at. So let me take you back to California, and let's see if we can bring some of that audio up. Unfortunately, we are still not getting any audio there, but that is California's Governor Gavin Newsom talking about the wildfire recovery efforts in California, which is an ongoing thing for California, devastating to those communities, still trying to recover, and again, this is happening live. So he's talking about wildfire preparedness and the responses. This is according to the governor's website. So the state is investing in things to prevent catastrophic wildfires from happening, including fuel reduction, prescribed burns to take away some of the source of what burns, and the recovery of some of those forests. California, he says, has committed billions of dollars towards these efforts. Also funding $135 million available for new and ongoing wildfire prevention projects, grants to support local projects that will focus on protecting the people, the structures, and the community. He is signing executive orders to fast-track some projects there to streamline the environmental regulations on projects like vegetation, tree removal, and things like that. So just a lot of things that they are doing to hopefully lessen the impact of wildfires, the expanse of wildfires. Multiple counties right now in California, there are wildfires that are burning right now. There is one in the San Luis Obispo County. That's the largest wildfire so far in 2025. It's burned more than 80,000 acres, and it's only reaching 30% containment. So again, the wildfire season does not end in California, and predictions point to another dangerous fire season because of the hot, dry conditions across the state. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'll just tell you what's happening. This is California's Governor Gavin Newsom, and he's giving an update on some of the wildfire preparedness activities that California, the state of California, is embarking on, as wildfire season is predicted to be another dangerous one because of the hot, dry conditions. Already across the state of California, there are multiple fires that are burning right now in San Luis Obispo County in California. Pardon me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. There is a fire that is burning right now, has burned more than 80,000 acres, and it's only 30% contained, although firefighters are making progress. And the state hopes to do prescribed burns to one of the strategies that firefighters use to try to take some of the fuel away from some of the fires. That's one of the things. There's so much. It's just this cycle of wildfires, takes away the vegetation, then you have the mudslides, and then it's, it just keeps on in this cyclical one natural disaster after another. And so the state of California is prioritizing preparedness, cleanup, and rebuilding efforts, providing support for survivors. There's still so many people who are still trying to recover and get their lives back from wildfires last season. And so the governor has been very vocal about the need for increased preparedness instead of responses to the wildfires. And recently he challenged President Trump to adopt a federal model to write an executive order to help prevent wildfires on federal lands, pointing out that the federal agencies like the Forest Service have faced staffing cuts, and how might that affect this upcoming season of wildfires. And so the CAL FIRE department has expanded its workforce and its aerial firefighting capabilities, including a second C-130 Hercules air tanker. So that's one of the things, that's one of the efforts that he is highlighting as he speaks there. And as of July 5th, this weekend, California has already seen more than 3,000 fires, burning 97,000 acres, if you can imagine. And some of those fires you may have heard of: the Wolf Fire, the Green Fire, the Marble Complex Fire, and they are burning right now with various levels of containment. So that is what is happening there in California. As we take a look at what's going on, just to kind of give you another look. So our Fox affiliate in LA is up. They have a helicopter there, and so I'm not really sure what they're working on. Earlier, we took the live desk. We took you to an ICE enforcement that happens in a park, a very popular park. And the response from LA's mayor, Karen Bass, that she wanted those ICE agents and that operation to cease immediately. These impromptu.
All right, here comes the big reveal, everybody. You guys sitting down there? I don't want anybody to fall down.
Have become a flashpoint in LA, and this was just another example of that. So that's what's going on. But other than that, the Matrix has been a little quiet this afternoon. So I'm going to bring it back here to me. I'm Kim Murphy on the Wisconsin Live Desk. One of the quirkier stories that caught my eye this morning: Brookfield police asking for your help in finding a fragrance thief. Ulta, a popular target, has been hit again in Brookfield. This time a guy walked out with $900 in fragrances, most of them testers. So he walks up to the counter, apparently, the different counters,
there you go,
and instead of just testing, he walks away with them. So
I was going to say, I saw.
Once you thought you've heard it all, you really haven't. $900 in fragrances, the testers. So that's not even a full fragrance. That's just how do you present that as a gift? Like, I used half of it. I don't have the box, but here you go, sweetie. Think about that. Gonna take a break. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And our affiliate in California working out those audio issues. So let's take a listen to Governor Newsom.
Connect to as well. How do we provide for a workforce? We're here at Pasadena Community College. I want to thank the president of Pasadena Community College. We learned a lot from Santa Rosa Community College from the Tubbs fire and their workforce development program. Pasadena Community College is replicating that and taking it to the next level. Again, lessons learned, opportunities to do more, train more, and advance a more comprehensive focus to make sure we have enough workers to advance this cause. The reference to California Jobs First references the resources that Jobs First is putting into those partnerships.
You're listening to California Governor Gavin Newsom talk about preparedness for the wildfire season. There are already wildfires that are burning in California. You're taking a look at some of the recovery from the Palisades fire, which was devastating. You saw just moments ago some of the construction to rebuild that community. Wildfire season, again, is predicted to be another dangerous one. We're not even talking just about loss of property. We're talking about loss of life. Already the state and its partners have treated 1.9 million acres to reduce wildfire risks, and they hope to do more. They've increased the number of people, resources for California Fire, and again, everything that can be done, the governor is saying is being done. Right now, there are 3,000, more than actually 3,200 fires burning, nearly 97,000 acres. You're taking a look on the left side of your screen. That's the Pacific Palisades fire. We thank you for joining us on the Wisconsin Live Desk. If it's happening, it's here on the Live Desk. Have a great afternoon. Stay hydrated, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Go.
County plan, part of the state plan, foundational part, the pillars around exercising priorities for reconstruction beyond just prioritizing individual homes. But in order to do so, and I'll close, we need to do more. And we need to be better in terms of accelerating these efforts. And so today I'll be signing another executive order addressing some of the issues that the city and county have requested of me to address as it relates for like-to-like reconstruction beyond the 110% footprint, to address some new codes that are non-life safety related that the city and county want to waive in order to reduce